topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
To Triversity Talk. Yes, I know I'm coming on air late. None of this is my fault. Let me just explain to you that Mercury has been in retrograde for a month, and I was told it was supposed to be over by 4 this afternoon. Obviously, it's not. This is the second show I tried to broadcast today and had all kinds of technical difficulties, as we call them. So I will spare you the rundown of my week and all that's been pertinent in my life, and I'm just going to go right to my fabulous guest intro. This person I was fortunate enough to meet at the Drag to Death screening in a fabulous bar in Brooklyn. And then once again, we ran into each other in the drag march. Damon Beirne is a transgender documentary director and editor living in Brooklyn, whose work amplifies the artistic practice of LGBTQ plus performers and transformational art. Where do you see the two trailers that Damon has for us here tonight? Without further ado, please welcome Damon Beirne. Yes.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you for having me today.
Such a
I'm
patient
so excited.
person. Well, I'm so excited to have you. And my God, the first night I met you at that screening, everything was like smooth. And there were so many wonderful films that we saw that night. And then the second time I meet you in the middle of the drag march, you had so much equipment hanging off of you. And you were like, here, just take this. Help me get this back on. You were in the middle of the entire march. And I totally got the perspective you were shooting from. And I'm like, this is amazing. So I was very excited to have you come on the show as a guest. And then what happens? I bring you into this chaos. I deeply, deeply apologize, but you are here. I am here. It's all good. And the hell with Mercury being in retrograde. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm just hanging out. My cat was in my lap, but he's left.
Okay, well, you know what? My dog was in my lap, and here he is. But for those only on audio, they don't get the full effect of Nugget's cuteness. So I'm going to jump right in here with you. When I first met you, is it called Video Dome Festival or what is it?
I think it's Videodrome. Yeah, it's like a monthly.
Okay,
show.
It's a Videodrome Festival. What was your reason for being there that night?
I was just there to hang out, check out the films, and support Dylan. I've worked with Dylan Morris Greenberg on a couple projects, and kind of just want to see what they were putting on.
Wow, right, yeah. and I will add what was so wonderful about the films being shown that night. They were all films that were LGBTQ centric. Done by people in the community. And there's more and more of a light being shown on all the creatives in that community. Question for you. Do you think the shining of the light on the community will help people that don't quite get it, right? In other parts of the country, I'll just put it that way. Do you think it will help make them understand things that they don't quite get now?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's kind of always seems to be being proven true that people are more likely to become accepting, once they know somebody.
Right.
And then once they know someone in the community, and I think just kind of like telling people that, the more people that are there, the more likely they're going to know somebody or engage with their art in some way.
Do you think that art can we've all had these conversations with people that don't get it. I mean, even myself, who's pretty good at explaining things, especially when it comes to transgender, I find myself even losing my patience, right? Like I want to shake the person and go, why do you not like understand what I'm saying? Film as a medium, though, is something I think, right, all human beings can relate to, because it's got all the good stuff. It's got happy, it's got sad, it's got empathy, it's got apathy. It has all of it. And in your case, how did you get involved doing film for the community?
I it kind of feels like kind of just happened naturally. Like I came to New York, was surrounded by filmmakers and queer
I know.
artists. They're very easy to find. Um, and I was lucky enough that I kind of had a very steady day job that allowed me to kind of take on, you know, smaller independent projects that if they paid, it usually wasn't anywhere near like, a livable wage day rate, right? But I had a job that was supporting me, so I could be like, yeah, sure, I'll do, your web series for like next to nothing, or let's do a bunch of music videos, and there's no budget, but that's okay. This isn't where my rent is coming.
I
From.
love you. You are so fabulous. There's no budget, but that's okay. And you know what? Join the club, Damon. I have the things that I get paid to do, which are in the entertainment industry. And then there's everything else. And the filmmakers that I was with that night, we just finished shooting. Sunday, we shot again. And
Oh,
we all work together. We have another screening at the bar what was the name of that bar again? What was
Lucky 13, I think is the name of
Lucky
the bar.
13. We have another screening coming up there.
Oh,
So,
cool.
after all this time, I follow the same path as you because, first of all, it's cool to be able to work with your friends. And
Yeah.
you lose the pressure that you have, right, for a corporate project.
Yeah, it's just fun. Like, filmmaking and I think community building have a lot like the same skill
Yeah.
sets. I mean, that's one thing I've really been learning as a director. Like, oh, this like this is a lot of party planning skills, and like kind of getting better at like party planning and event production is kind of like it's getting better at the same skills that like directing is.
Oh,
It's just like,
absolutely.
getting
I mean,
people in a room.
right. Right. And the people, what you have to do with them as a director, you're right. It is the ultimate in party planning. And then, of course, there's the whole backstory of when you're producing a party, all the planning, right? Same thing with a film, how you're going to lay it out, what it's going to read like. But I will, and you can tell me if you don't agree with me on this, when you get to like do low budget or no budget, super creative stuff, don't you think that there's much more spontaneity than having to stick to an exact script?
Oh, definitely. No, it's like it's all just wing it. I mean, a lot of the real lesson I got in kind of like making a lot with nothing was I worked for a long time with this record label Transgenders, and they're like, we're gonna get some money and we're gonna just make a music video shot by the manager in Times Square, and scaffolding works as a green screen if anyone ever wants to try that. Um,
That's absolutely brilliant.
yeah,
Right. There's scaffolding everywhere in the city. So,
yeah.
wow.
And just like knowing like your free resources,
Right.
you know.
And you really do learn to fly by the seat of your pants.
Oh, totally. And it's just like we're gonna do what we can with what we have and fix it in post.
And fix
And
it in
fix it in post.
post. Right.
Which because I do all the post myself, I can say that.
Now, how did you become so skilled at this? Where did you tell me about where you went to school? First of all, I don't even know where you're from. You said you came to Brooklyn, and I was going to go from where?
So I'm from Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
I was there through high school. And then I kind of started like dabbling in like some video editing at that point. For me, it really kind of comes from like it's the creativity and the technology coming together. So like I kind of got started just making like, if any of my friends were doing like a class, like a video for a class
Yeah.
project, I was the one putting it together for them, even if it wasn't my project and I wasn't taking that class.
Right.
And then that I went to college at George Mason University and went into their film department. I kind of came to New York straight from there.
Wow.
But
So there,
I went to college specifically for like post-production. So,
right. I'm curious, what was screaming to you to come to New York? I grew up here, so I take a lot for granted. I knew, that this was the be all and end all, and even coming from here, I knew this is where it was moving and shaking. Although lots of filmmakers go out to LA, for me, I knew it would not be a good fit. What made you know that you were going to fit here?
I mean, I had an aunt who was living in New York my whole life, so I came up to New York like every year. That was my birthday present, was coming up and being in New York for a bit, and
Oh
that
my
was
God,
always
that was your birthday present. Did you give it to
yeah.
yourself or other people gave it to you?
Oh, that was my birthday present from my aunt from about the time I was like 13 onwards.
Okay, I
was
love your
coming to
aunt.
New
I
York.
know. Shout out to your aunt. What's her name?
Linda.
Aunt Linda. You are a rock star. How very cool.
Yeah, and she worked very hard to try to brainwash me into coming to New York, and it worked. And then beyond that, it's like I like that you can get food at all hours of the night. The
That's
subway runs all the time. There's
right.
1,000,001 books and movies saying that you got to come here.
Right.
I don't know, discovering like Allen Ginsberg when I was like 15 probably also played a big role.
Oh man, you are a Renaissance person. Yeah, you're name dropping all the right stuff. You know who Charles Bush is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course you do. I'd love to put the two of you in a room together because no, Charles, grew up in Westchester and was very much influenced had an anti-mame also, as we call them. And that set the stage for Charles. Your Aunt Linda was your influencer.
Yeah.
Now
Exactly,
had Aunt
yeah.
Linda lived in New York? Had she been in film and entertainment?
She worked in publishing. So she was at yeah. But I came up and lived with her for a summer during college while doing an internship, and she took me to like her friend's one woman show at a bar, and like the book, like a book release party here, and just there was things around.
Who is her friend's woman show? Do you remember who it was?
Oh, I don't remember the name.
I know so many people, and I've been here forever and a day. I always say I'm 100 years old. So I probably know who it is. And that very thing that you talked about, the book parties, the one people show, the fact that you can go anywhere at any time, and the fact that there's so much creative energy here. I try and explain that to people. In any given night, honestly, and I'm sure you can attest to this, we have 10 to 20 things or more that we want to do. And of course, we support our friends. We always end up doing that. But there's just so much here.
Oh, I know. It's constant. I took a trip about a year ago. I went to like a small part of Wales for a week. And they kept asking me, like, why are you here? It's like, I want a break from being invited to parties.
Oh, that's hilarious.
You can't, in New York, you're never going to get that break.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can't say no. And obviously, all the stimulation really works for you. You like being around all of that. When I saw you in the middle of that drag march, I was like, yeah, I didn't know you were coming. I think we had talked about it, but lots of people talk about a lot of things.
Oh.
And there you were, and you were shooting it, which is really incredible.
Oh, yeah, that was fun. I was filming the artist Queen Amor for all of Pride Weekend. And
wow. I know Pride Weekend was really quite amazing here, as it always is. And, we go through all the trauma. I call it the pre-Pride trauma. First of all, now we have a few different marches. Then we have like who's marching in this march, who's boycotting the other march. Everything that happens with the police, the regular police, and then the Gay Officer Alliance League. There's just so much drama every year. This year we had, I'm sure you noticed, a lot of corporate dollars did not come to New York Pride or any of the prides anywhere around the country. And my God, you make films, that's a whole story in itself.
Oh, yeah. No,
as to what happened this year, and money drying up and all of that. But and you know this better than anyone, the show must go on. And it did. And it, all over the country. Nobody's not going to have their pride thing. Well, I would like to show you sent me 2 trailers, and our fabulous remote producer Juan, I'm hoping they're queued up so that we can get ready and show those right now. So here we go.
You will be seeing absolutely incredible acts of wonder and mischief tonight, competing this year for the title of Mix Nobody. That is right, ladies and everyone.
Yeah. What I want for every drag scene in the country is this level of freedom to fucking play.
Nope is a rubric that consists of newness, outlook, passion, and ugh. We need your number to be new. We need it to be original. We need it to come from a distinct outlook and character. We need you to give 110%. And we need you to make us gag, bitch.
I wanted to have this sort of like cosmic, polyamorous, interspecies sex party between myself and the audience.
What is cringy and what is comedy? And then like, how can we Venn diagram that into making community?
Something that gets me at the core of my being, which is why it's not a cut and dry, easy, short word. It's ugh.
Everything is like the highest version of its artistic self here. You know what I mean? Like from the stupidest to the most intellectually repugnant thing. Like this is the fucking place that you will know in 30 years because this was a place where like transformational art happened.
The Queer Roots Showcase is just a collection of amazing queer and trans artists of different marginalizations from all over the United States.
And we weren't being welcomed in any of these other spaces, so we made our own space, you know?
We come from homes that are often in rural places where we don't feel like we can stay there and be safe. And so when a lot of us who had to leave that home are making music now, I think we tend towards something that is what we couldn't have.
Especially down in the South, especially now in this time where so many folks are telling us, people like us don't need to be telling our stories, that it's criminal to just be telling our stories, to just be existing freely and openly in this world.
And here it's like celebration, it's joy, and it's people speaking their truths. And like, that's so much more rich to me and so much more interesting.
There was something else for me to find, so I had to roam. Sometimes your hometown isn't home.
They said our freedom is a constant diary. Oh Lord, Lord, we've died so long. We must be free.
Easy to hold, easy to know. Ain't no trouble, not your trouble to let go.
Wow. Just 2 great pieces in 2 very different places.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one's Nashville and one is like deep Bushwick.
Right. I got the first one was deep Bushwick and the second one was deep Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk about these trailers. Let's talk about the first one. Can you say the name of it again, please?
Yeah. So that's for the documentary film Notes on Nope.
Okay.
And then the second one is Lavender Outlaws.
Okay. And these films are made already, right?
Notes on Nope, I'm still in post-production for that.
Okay.
I'm expecting to be kind of like submitting that to festivals by the end of next year.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. The people in the second one are beautiful too. I think what's so interesting to me, Damon, about what you did is like everybody in the films, talented, gorgeous, and they all have something to say. And I think when you're trying to get a message out there, that is the most important thing that you can do. Because, when we talk amongst ourselves, if we're in Bushwick, you're preaching to the converted there, right? But getting these films and getting them screened across the country is really, really what it's about. reaching people in such a way. So let's talk about the one that you did in Bushwick. How many different people do you have in the film?
Ooh, over 30. I'd have to sit down and count. There were 20, I believe 28 different contestants for the Mixed Nobody pageant.
Wow.
Not even counting all the judges and the producers. So yeah, probably like 30, 35.
And this pageant, tell me how often this happens. And is it like the last year or the last couple of years?
So the film is fully focused on last year.
Last year, okay.
Yeah, just focused on last year, kind of just like encapsulating that as a moment in time. It's a yearly competition. The current one is actually happening right now.
Oh my
Round
God.
3 is this Friday night, and that will be the last preliminary round in New York.
Okay.
The finale will be at Mercury Lounge at the end of September.
Wow. How does a person find out about this?
I don't know. I mean, I think just like knowing the artists and maybe following them on Instagram. Instagram's where they're doing most of their promotion.
Right.
I found out about it. I was aware of the show. I think I may have been to one before like COVID hit and they had to take a break.
Right.
But I was living walking distance from the bar Purgatory, which does, if you want to see great alternative drag, Purgatory is the place to go. Purgatory's the place to go. Come to the show on Friday. It's an early one. They start at 7.
Yeah, and like with my schedule, I can't come, but I would go to. How often do they do the drag shows at Purgatory?
Oh, there's probably something most every night. It's at least every weekend night.
Wow.
And occasionally
I'm really familiar
shows
with
back to
Bushwick. I know all the people that perform, not all the people, but most of them. But in the scene, the drag scene, now there are so many levels. So many levels. Yeah. From like coming up in the drag scene in New York, like you just knew everybody. And Brooklyn was not active at all at that time. Not that there weren't drag performers living in Brooklyn, but it wasn't a scene. Here was a scene. We had all the Hell's Kitchen bars, and drag was, it was happening in Manhattan. And then boom, Bushwick like explodes. And I can tell you, you hear stuff in the drag community in New York. Oh my God, I can't stand another drag act. I can't handle being around another drag act. It just exploded everywhere. And when I really got aware of it, I go to the Glam Awards every year because my podcasts have been up for awards. And even if I didn't have anything up for an award, I would go to the Glam Awards anyway. And what blew me away about Brooklyn, there were all these kids that came to the Glam Awards that weren't up for anything. They came to support their friends. And Damon, they came like, they looked just like the people in your trailer. I mean, flawless, just in attitude, in makeup, in costuming, the whole 9 yards. And the drag scene I grew up in, unless you were performing drag, you would not go to those lanes. I think what blows me away is these kids are so committed to being who they are and the amount of creativity. It's like everyone's a makeup artist. Everybody's a stylist. Oh my God, they can design their own clothes too. It's really unreal. And I got that from your trailer, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad it's even the trailer's giving a taste of that. And I think I've got like multiple of the performers in their interviews were referring to drag as like the Olympics of all art forms, because it really like can take any art form you've got, you can put it in your drag. This year there's been, it seems like every year there's just more and more video artists like designing their own backdrops for their shows. They are writing music, doing live music in drag. It is, and anything and everything is happening.
Yeah, well, what's happened is the skies become the limit. Now, I talk about this a lot. It's fabulous, and yet it's daunting at the same time. And I'm going to tell you why, from the perspective of the people who've been in the drag performing world. Let's just say the ones who have been around 20 years, right? Now, all of a sudden, there's all these people out there who are getting booked in the very clubs that the drag artists that were there before got in. Not only are these people getting booked, you're right, they do their own backgrounds, design their own clothes, write their own music. So the beauty of now, Damon, I think, is the fact that if you just can go for it, right? Nothing's going to stop you. Whereas, it was so much more premeditated what you were going to do, what your act was going to be. And now it's just kind of like busted wide open. That's pretty cool when you think about it.
Oh, yeah. There's just so many great performers. I mean, we've got, and getting to hear them like talking about kind of like what's going on in their heads to bring it to the performance.
I bet you love that,
really
right?
I love listening to that.
Right. So are there a lot of those interviews in your film?
Yeah, that's the main focus on the film, is really just focusing on kind of like, what's going on in their head to kind of create it as like a performance art. Because a lot of them, I mean, the show itself is they can do anything on that stage. There are no restrictions. There's no theme that they're trying to like meet. So they just, and yeah, we've got, I think in the trailer, we've got a drag queen named Darius talking about like bringing like cringe and community together. And that's, they went up and they did the cinnamon challenge on stage and were spewing cinnamon all over the room.
I love that. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And they were like, they did it for the community to, the room had a lot of smelly people in it. And they were like, let's bring in some cinnamon.
That's really, really funny.
Yeah.
Not a can of air freshener, but cinnamon.
Cinnamon, yeah.
Organic substance. Love it. That's so the second film that you did, the name is
Lavender Outlaws.
Lavender Outlaws. By the way, great name. Absolutely great name. Which I'm assuming you do everything yourself. You came up with the name.
I came up with the name, yeah. That was really the film where I did everything myself on. I was a one-man crew and did the post. For the notes on Nope, I had like a team of people helping me out.
Well, yeah, I saw how that was shot. It's by the way, beautifully shot.
Thank you.
But not everything, as you know, needs to be beautifully shot. Sometimes it can be the raw essence. And that's what I got in the second one. I love the way it was shot. And I love the truths in the performances. Mm-hmm. And you had how they felt, which is like really, really important. And the person that I asked you about earlier, they had on like the purple shirt. They were playing guitar. That person's name again?
Chris Matthews.
What an incredible, I mean, all the people that I saw were talented, but Chris was like, oh my God,
Oh yeah, no, Chris gave like amazing performances, and the interview I got from them was just so strong. That was kind of like one of the challenges I had at one stage of the edit. I was like, oh, this documentary is accidentally like 90% Chris Matthews speaking, because they answer all the questions, and it's like this whole past like, okay, let's balance it out, find all the people kind of speaking to the same topic.
Right. But it's hard with someone like that, because if they do interviews the way they play and sing, that, that's a star. And you're immediately drawn in by that person. That's a personality. That's a person that can really get the message across too. You must take pure joy in what you do.
Oh yeah, my favorite thing is just, and kind of this is how I came to documentary, was I just on the other projects I was on, I just found that my favorite things to work on were just artist interviews and listening to them talk, and getting to kind of like create a story out of that.
Right. I don't make films, but as you know, that's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
I've been interviewing people my entire life, except now it's a real thing for me. And people say, like, how do you do that? Because the same joy that you bring out in your films, you can tell you love what you're seeing, and you're going to make them shine. And when I interview a person, I love what I'm hearing. I'm continually curious, which I'm sure you are too, curious. Like, who is
Oh
this?
yeah.
Like, how did they become who they are? And, especially in the Nashville and Lavender Outlaws, that's another part of the country. And watching that had me thinking, gee, I wonder what it's like for them there. This show that you're on,
Yeah.
Traversity, is hooked into our LGBTQ in Milford, Pennsylvania, which I would say is very close to what you were showing in Nashville. And, we have performers in Milford. We have a very strong LGBTQ community. We have a lot of kids coming up that are very talented. And we just did a Pride Day, Pike County Pride, and some of those kids performed in the show. And I was the one that was putting the show together. And I mean, I just loved every single one of them. I'm like, oh my God, if I had my druthers, I would have everybody out there performing all the time. If I had endless amounts of money, Damon, I would, do these shows like what you went to in Nashville. Wouldn't that be great?
Oh, that'd be amazing. Just like
creative energy, right, on the stage.
Oh yeah, no, just I mean, anyone listening, check out the artists, see them. They're on tour constantly, and they're all, and especially these artists, because they're doing, they're country musicians or folk musicians. They kind of all fall under Americana, so they're not just like doing your big like coastal cities. They are going out and going to like your more small towns, your smaller cities, and they are out there kind of just creating community as they travel.
Right. They're creating community, and they're all really good. This was not like, their performances were not unpolished. Everything that I saw in the trailer, I'm like, this person's as good as the one that came before them. And I love that you brought that part of the country, first of all, to light. Nashville is a big place. It's not like Pike County where our LGBTQ center is, but we're also close to New York. But I think it's important to shine a light on those people, as it is in Bushwick as well. But by the time you've made it to Bushwick, right, and you're living your truth and you're at your performance high, you're there, okay? You're immersed in a community and you're surrounded by a lot of like people. Let's face it, we could all be in what do they call the New York area, sanctuary city, where I call, I tell people all the time, I'm in my own little bubble, although less of a bubble than a lot of people from being in Milford, Pennsylvania on the weekend. And Traversity, I think we were around 13 years, seeing our kids come up, seeing our transgender community come up, has been a huge eye-opener for me. Because really, Damon, where I grew up, people never came out. They just were. I meet a lot of people that come to New York from other places, and they come on the show and they talk about when they came out, which is, I understand people do that in other places. Believe me when I tell you, in New York, it was just like, you hung out with your friends and like nobody really cared what anyone else was into. They respected the person. Everyone has their own truth, and we respected each other's truth. So it's very interesting to me when I look at your two pieces in different parts of the country. It's very, very interesting what you're doing. You're transgender. How was you're, first of all, one of the most positive people in this community in a creative area. And man, you are one hell of a storyteller. So I'm excited to see what you can do going forward. You being in the middle of that march spoke volumes to me. I know people that do that, and some of them are very, very well known. You're young and you already got it, which is great. And you have the talent and all of that. What was, for you, and it's as much as you want to share, you're really comfortable in your own skin. So, what was your transition like for you?
I mean, all that happened during college.
Smart.
Yeah, so I came out around I was 19 when I came out. I did hormones and surgery kind of like one year after another. I was pretty lucky where there were like queer professors in the film school
right
at my college, so it kind of wasn't like I heard stories of other people like having issues with their professors, but the head of the film department, G. Chesler, who's also telling like trans stories in their documentary films that are currently ongoing. You know, they had like they immediately put in like a pronoun policy in the film department at, you know, this is like 2014, I think they added that in.
So they were really, wow, ahead
Yeah.
of their time.
Yeah, we had, you know, there's another like queer professor that we had. You know, she had a whole career just in I think mostly like lesbian films. So it was just supportive community, and then they brought in other people,
right,
as like speakers. And
I have to say you're really lucky, you know, because I meet so many people at various points in their journey, as we say, especially in the Pennsylvania area where people came out really late, over 50. Imagine, right, where you had one whole life and then now you have a whole other life. It's very, very difficult. I don't know, in your case, if you were just lucky or very smart, you surrounded yourself with all the right stuff, and kudos to you. And I think that's an important point when you share with people that that's what someone needs to do, you know, find yourself, find your tribe, as we say, find your chosen family. And yeah, you can be who you are. It makes it much smoother for people. You know, I was about to say, I think it's easier now than ever, but I always bite my tongue when I say that, because I hope Simone Krause is watching now, because she will tell you how many anti-trans bills are out there. Simone knows every statistic. And Simone, God bless her, wrote a book, and it's finally coming out. And I'm so proud of her. She'll be on the show. But the statistics were really awful. And we're coming into this election. We did watch things take a turn. You know, if you had talked to me 2 months ago, well, my God, when I met you at Lucky 13 that night, I was feeling kind of dismal about the election, because I knew about all these bills and I knew about what was going on out there. And, you know, I read everything. I read the anti stuff too, because I think an educated, informed person is important. That's important for me. I need to know what's going on out there on the other side as much as I need to know what's going on in my bubble, which I'm perfectly comfortable in. But it's important to keep your ears and your eyes open. And then back in June, when I first learned that they were pulling corporate funding from Pride, because my co-host was very much involved to be putting on this big thing at Carnegie Hall, and had all these performers, big ones, on Sam Smith, on board to do this huge thing. And then, you know, not only was there no money there, all of a sudden we started hearing about NYC Pride. There was not going to be money there either. And then it was like, oh yeah, the march in San Francisco this year. So that was a little scary, because unfortunately, as we all know, we now have to rise above the corporations to the best of our ability. We all have to be lavender outlaws at the end of the day, you know, and get the message out there. So I feel more optimistic about things now. I absolutely do. Here we go. Simone Krause is on. Thank you, Simone. 617 anti-trans bills in 2024. Wow. She also said, great show. Thank you, Simone. Please put in the name of your book so I can talk that up a little bit here too. We also had someone named Savoy 1984 tune in from the UK. Is that a friend of yours?
No, I don't know Savoy. We'd be friends now.
Okay, well, Savoy says, greetings from the UK. I'm so glad people have gotten more open-minded in my 50 years on this earth. Me too, Savoy. And I have on here Hannah Q from the Hannah Q Dance Company, who rehearses her dancers in New York and puts on dance performances here. If you know any wonderful dancers, Damon, send them my way and I'll send them to Hannah's way. She's an amazing choreographer. She's on now too. Simone's book is called Just a Different Rapping, and by Petra Simone Krause. And I met Simone before she transitioned, an incredible person with an equally amazing wife, Mary. And for me, we're meeting all these incredible people. It's up to all of us to get the message across out there, you know?
Yeah,
and I think the playground going forward will be, fingers crossed, Damon, you know, make sure that all of these people in your videos get out and vote. You do tell them that, right?
Oh yeah, I will remind them all to vote.
Thank
Again,
you.
re-register and check their registration.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love it. Good. Yes. So please share your handles with me. We have like 60 seconds left.
Oh yeah. It's just my name at Damon Beirne on Instagram. I'm not on Twitter or TikTok or really anything else. And then my website is I have a post-production company called Post Transition. So it's post-transition.com.
I love the name of your company too.
Thank you.
Great. Absolutely great. Please keep us all in the loop with what you're doing. And Damon just shared, of course, all of the sites. And before we go, I have to get a picture. I always do this. I know this is like so hokey, but I like shooting people on here. I don't know why. You know what? Maybe I'll have a show of these things that I've taken on StreamYard. Jeez. Can you imagine? Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And
thank you for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. And any word that you need for me to spread that will help you with your career. I'm a really good mouthpiece, and as Simone Krauss will attest to. All right. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. Hopefully next week I'll be able to start on time. Mercury's out of retrograde. And yes, life goes on, doesn't it? Thank you, everybody. Yes. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.